Hello and welcome to another episode of Print All the Things. This is episode 2 of my 3D printing adventures and 3D printing news and what I'm printing and what filaments I'm printing with and any news about printers if I have any. That's a lot of things. But we had episode 1 last week, I think. And it was nice to get episode 1 done. Whenever I'm doing a new podcast, the first episode is always the most nerve-wracking because I'm so concerned about structure, so concerned about various things like content length and album art, all kinds of crazy stuff. And speaking of which, I actually drew a new logo the other day of a new Print All the Things logo, and it's based on something that you guys might recognize. So let me know in the comments what you think it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is, so you got to tell me. So look at the album art. It's going to be in the thumbnail of the YouTube video too. And tell me if you recognize it. I based it on something. I'm not going to give you any more hints because I'm bad at giving hints. I'll tell you the answer before for all is said and done. Before we get into the show, I want to congratulate Uncle Jesse. I don't know if you guys follow Uncle Jesse on YouTube. I watched a video of his today, and he just bought a building for his 3D printing endeavors. It includes his business, his show, his content, and also his print farm. And it's a massive space, and I'm really proud of him. I'm happy for him because I think he said on the video that he quit his job this time last year. So it's only been a year that he pretty much went full time and just dove into this pool of full-time content creation, which can be scary. Trust me, it can be very scary. But Uncle Jesse, he's doing very well. So I'm really happy and proud of him. So I'll put a link in the show description so you guys can check it out. He gives a tour of it, talks about it and stuff, and just go watch it. All right. So throughout my week on my live stream at Buona.live or at twitch.tv/Buona, I combine 3D printing with video games. But as of lately, I've been kind of in a gaming funk. If you don't know what that is, that means that, you just can't get into games. You just play something, you start playing something, and then all of a sudden you just stop. A lot of you have been in gaming funks for 20 years. You know what I'm talking about. And you just can't get back into it. So it happens from time to time. So I've just been focusing on mainly just talking and printing and talking about my 3D printers and what I'm printing and stuff. We had quite a bit of a variety in terms of models, not in terms of modelers, but in terms of the models. The first one I want to talk about is Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn, we did 2 different variants from Eastman. And Harley Quinn, we printed in the Polyterra PLA. I want to say it's the fossil gray. Polyterra PLA, Polyterra PLA. There we go. It's a lot of P's in that. I always struggle with that. And we did 2 variants. We did one variant, which is an easier variant, where it's just a bust with no arms and no legs or anything. And it's just on a stand. It's on a stand, and she's just posing. So it's very easy to print. I think I only had to put supports on one part of it. It was a part of the hair. And I found out through a failed print. This is one of my failed print stories of the week. I'll try to include at least one. And it failed because there was a piece of her hair that wasn't like solid. It was like a loop, and it was at an angle to where it needed supports. Otherwise, it would break off. And that's exactly what happened in the first go around. So I ended up printing 2 full busts of Harley Quinn, and the second one came out perfect. So that one was good. The other one now, I think this is variant 1, was a little bit more challenging because it involved a lot of smaller parts, and Eastman provided very, very good instructions on how to put it together. He gave you options on printing the whole thing as one piece, printing the arms as 2 pieces or as one whole piece, and there's a baseball bat, there's bubble gum that you have to print to put on her face. So it kind of gets a little bit involved, and I was happy to do that because I tend to shy away from those because they have a lot of post work and post production, and I've been trying to get over that because a lot of the 3D prints out there that are memorable and that people talk about all the time usually involves some sort of post-production, whether it be some kind of sanding, an MMU print, or painting, or, you know, some sort of a multi-piece thing like the Millennium Falcon on Gambody, where you have a billion pieces and you put them all together, but when you're done, it looks really, really good. So I'm trying to get over that hump of being lazy. It's not necessarily lazy, it's just I don't want to invest the time into it because I want to invest that time somewhere else. So it's not about being lazy in that I don't want to do anything. It's just that I want to allocate that time to do something a little bit more, I guess you want to say productive, but something that can, you know, can aid what I'm trying to accomplish for that week. So both of these turned out great, but I was really happy with the second one because we used some 3D gloop and we put it together, and it actually looks really good. I was impressed. We did it at half scale, and that made some of the things a little bit challenging. Like the fingers on the hands were a little bit fragile, and I had to be careful with the supports on it, taking those off, and there was a little bit of support bruising, but not a whole lot. And gluing it together, I had to be careful because I was being very clumsy with the 3D gloop. And I posted on Twitter, and thankfully 3D Gloop replied. They were like, hey, you know, we make a tube. We make glue in a tube that makes it easier, so you can just squeeze a little bit on there. You don't have to use the big brush. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll look at that. But they liked the print, so it was cool to see 3D Gloop and get their attention. So that was fun. So Harley Quinn, that was one of the ones I did. After Harley Quinn, we had some interest from some of my community members for Deadpool. And I printed Deadpool from Eastman. This is an Eastman model. This is a model that you can actually download. You don't have to be part of his Patreon. And Deadpool is on PruciaPrinters.org. It's a supportless remix of Deadpool. And this is a very good model. No supports needed. Took me about 14 to 15 hours at 0.15 layer height. And it really, really is good. So I had some interest for that. So I printed one in Mixtape 14, the spool that I talked about last episode from Printed Solid. We printed it in that filament, and it came out really, really well. But there was some interest to put it on the shop. So I was like, let me break out my standard filaments for the shop, and I printed it in in Printed Solid Jesse Gunmetal Gray. And I mean, it came out really nice. And the gentleman who requested it ended up ordering 2. So it was a big success. So we're going to be shipping those out to him from WannaLabs.com. We're going to be sending those out. And he also ordered some other stuff from the shop too. So it was a really, really good sale. Oddly enough, this is actually a success story. This is a good story for my marketing campaign that I did in January. We did a marketing campaign on Twitch where if we hit a hype train, I think it was a hype train. Yeah, it was every 10 subs, every 10 Twitch subscribers, we gave away a random box of prints. And it was a marketing campaign. We just basically sent it to anybody who entered, long as they were in the US. And it was an investment. So, and it actually worked out well because the guy who bought those 3 prints, he won one of the random boxes of prints, and he was so impressed with the quality that he wanted more. So it was a great success story on marketing. So if you guys are looking into marketing your work, Twitch is a good place to do it if you stream on there. You know, just give away some stuff every now and then, get it in their hands so they can see the quality, they can feel it, they can look at it. Because I say it all the time. These prints, you just have to see them. The pictures that I take, I try to do my best to make them look as good as possible, but you just got to see them. You got to see them, and you got to hold them. That's what got me hooked on 3D printing when I first held it. So that was cool. So we ended up printing like 3 or 4 Deadpools, and 2 of them are going to be gone. I'm gonna keep the mixtape number 14 here for a while. It came out so good that I want to print one for myself and maybe try to paint it, because that's a good paint project to do. We also printed the Lahi word art text for the same guy. So it's Code New from my chat, and This is a word art that we made a while ago to celebrate Final Fantasy 14. Lahi is like the lyrics to one of the songs, and it's a meme on my channel. We have stickers going on and everything with sound effects. So we got that word art. We printed that in Polyterra Fossil Gray as well. So that's a Polymaker Filament Polyterra. That was mostly what we did most of the week, is we printed in Polyterra and printed solid Jesse Gunmetal Gray. We used a lot of that. And finally, those of you who follow me on Twitter know what I'm going to talk about next. This is one of the ones we printed. One of the busts that we printed. We printed Cad Bane. And Cad Bane, we actually had two different variants, and it was very cool that both Wexter and Eastman, these are two modelers that I support on Patreon, both Wexter and Eastman did a Cad Bane model, and they did two takes on it. It was very interesting. Wexter did more of a close-up to the face with a smaller bust, or the smaller chest part, and he had part of the breathing apparatus behind him. Whereas Eastman went for more of a bigger torso feel with a smaller head, and both of them printed hats that were removable, which is very cool. So the hats were removable. And Eastman, his model came in two variants. The first variant was a simple model for people like me to have FDM printers, and he had a more complicated model for the resin printer guys, which had the entire breathing apparatus on his back, and it was very, very complicated. It had more pieces and stuff. But I opted to go for the simple model because I have an FDM printer. I do have a resin printer, but we haven't got everything for it yet. So once we do, we'll be resin printing here. So we printed both of those. We printed one in Overcast Gray Glitter. The Eastman was an Overcast Gray Glitter, which is a spool that was sent to me by David Randolph a while ago when I asked him for some. Thanks, David, for the spool, by the way, from printedsolid.com. He sent me Overcast Gray Glitter when I asked him for some neutral colors. He sent me one of those, and I was almost out of it, so it was just enough to print the bust, because I did it at 50%, I believe. It wasn't full size. And then with Wexter's, I printed that one in I'm pretty sure, yeah, that was in the Polymaker Polyterra Fossil Gray as well. I'm a big fan of gray because the busts look really good with it, and if you decide to paint it, it works well too. With the Wexter one, I made his hat a different color. I made his hat the Jesse Mixtape 14, which is the neon brown. I made that one for his hat, and it made his hat look like a leatherish, brownish color. So it came out pretty good. And I was thinking about doing it again with the base being black, the actual bust being gray, and then the hat being brown. But I'm almost out of Mixtape 14. I just got the spool, man. Just got it last show. We were talking about it, and it's pretty much gone. I go through this stuff fast because we're pretty much printing all the time, all the things, all the time. When I'm streaming, when I'm not streaming, when I'm doing things for BuonoLabs.com and for that business and stuff, we're always printing. So if I like a filament, it ain't gonna last long. It's gonna go pretty fast. And I don't print huge things. You know, the mini can only do like 6.5, 7 inches tall. So it's not gonna be like super duper large. But we do print all the things, and we have fun with it. So that's all I have for this week. We didn't have a whole lot of news to talk about, other than Uncle Jesse. That was very cool to see. And we try to mention things like that when they come up, because it's really, really cool to see that happen. Several content creators on Twitch were doing giveaways. I know Loyal Moses was doing a giveaway on his stream. I think this Friday, Loyal Moses is giving away a Focus laser engraver, which is really cool. And Chris Perillo celebrated his first year of printing, and he already did his giveaways. Those are done. But if you come by Twitch and you come through the directories, you'll see the 3D printers. Now, this is something I got a little bit of a pet peeve, and it's a little bit of a rant, but we really haven't decided on a category, because sometimes we're in just chatting, sometimes we're in science and technology, and sometimes we're in makers and crafting. So if you do come to Twitch and you want to look for 3D printers, your best bet is to look for the 3D printing tag, because you can search by tags. And most times you'll find people 3D printing under that tag. I do. No matter what I'm playing, if I'm playing a video game or whatever, I have the 3D printing tag so you can find me. But in terms of like main category, we really haven't decided on, there isn't a norm. Most people are in makers and crafting, but myself on sometimes I'm just chatting and other times I'm not. I've never really streamed in science and technology when I'm 3D printing though, but sometimes Chris is over there because he's talking about science and tech while he's 3D printing. So it's kind of odd, you know. Can't really ask them to change categories to things they're not doing. But it's fun on Twitch. Come on my stream at twitch.tv/Borno. We've been talking a lot about 3D prints and printing and technology, and we will help you if you are brand new to 3D printing. I'm coming up on my 1 year in March. I'll be printing for 1 year, and I have stories and I have lessons learned. I have a lot of things I can teach you and tell you about what to avoid. Like, for example, here's a freebie. Someone asked me about, we were talking, I think I was talking to Gaffleg. Yeah, he had just won a Prusa Mini, and he decided to get a kit. Because he said people told him you should get a kit first so you can learn about the printer so you can troubleshoot it, which I kind of agree with. But with my experience, I'm going to recommend something different to people. I'm going to say for your very first 3D printer, this is because this has worked out very well for me. This is what I did. For your very first 3D printer, get something that is out of the box and print, right? You want something that's really easy to print with, because I think it's very important to learn how to troubleshoot 3D printing itself, independent of the actual parts and builds. Now let me explain that. So when you troubleshoot 3D printing, you're going to be looking at layer height, you're going to be looking at temperature, you're going to be looking at cooling, all kinds of different things that can affect your print. The supports, the angles, the orientation. There's a whole world of troubleshooting that you have to do that's mainly independent of the actual hardware. This is just the printing and slicing process, the filament, you know, and what you do, the bed temperature and adhesion and all these things that you've got to learn as a new person. You've got to learn how to do this. So I recommend you just get a printer that can print out of the box. That's why I recommend the Prusa Mini, because you get the partially assembled kit, takes you a couple hours to put it together, even if you go slow like me, and boom, you're printing. And then you can start working on that troubleshooting stuff that I talked about. After you've gotten that first printer and you're happy with it, if, I say this very, very, very carefully, if you decide that you want another printer to tinker around with and play with, then you should get a kit. And that's exactly what I did. After I got my first Prusa Mini, I got a kit. I got a MK3S kit, and I built it from scratch, and I learned so much. So I do know the value of learning. I do know the value of learning everything about a printer by putting it together from a kit. But I can tell you, it was a much smoother experience being able to troubleshoot the printer from the build components and the building of the printer, and kind of having a general understanding of, hey, maybe this isn't the printer hardware. Maybe this is the filament. Maybe I need to increase the temperature. Maybe I'm getting layer shifting because of the slice and not necessarily because of belt tension, you know? So I think I had a better time of easing into it and getting into the world of troubleshooting hardware after I had learned how to 3D print, because I think if you get it all thrown at you at once, it could be the printer hardware, you could have messed up something on the kit, or it could be the filament and your layer height, and it's just, it doubles the amount of possibilities of what could go wrong. And I think the way the scenario that I went through was actually the easier path. Had I started with a kit, I would have had a rougher time. I know I would have had a rougher time because of all the possibilities, of all the different things that could have went wrong with that printer and with the print. I would have been second guessing everything I did with the kit, on top of the filament, on top of the temperature, on top of the layers, the Z height, the bed adhesion, I know with the Prusa Mini, you have auto bed leveling, but some printers don't have that. So the bed leveling, there's so many things that can come into play. Right. Do I have a bad spool of filament? Because, you know, it's unlikely, but you could get shipped a bad spool of filament that, you know, is wet. And you start hearing snap, crackle, pop. You're like, what in the world is that? Is it my printer or is it the filament? So it's like things like that. That was a long story, but things like that where you're new to printing and you want to learn what's the best way to go. And Bwana will tell you, get yourself an assembled or partially assembled first, learn how to print, get familiar with the terminologies, and then dive into the kit builds and then dive into the components and stuff. I think that's an easier path than just starting with a kit. Now, the people who started with kit that are great at printing, they're probably looking at me and scoffing, going, "Oh, you just don't know what you're doing." You're probably right. I'm just telling you what was easier for me so you can get a different perspective, because you're going to hear that suggestion from so many people. They're going to say, start with a kit, and that way you'll learn everything about a printer if something goes wrong. And to me, for someone if you're brand new to 3D printing, that can make your head explode and you'll throw the thing in the closet and forget about it. There's so many people out there that bought a 3D printer, got frustrated, and never used it again. And I'm pretty sure there's people listening to this show that can attest. Yeah, that was me. You got so frustrated with whatever was going on with the printer because you were overwhelmed and you just stopped. And that's something that I strive to prevent from happening with people. And if you come on Twitch with the 3D printing community, we'll be happy to help with anything you have. Okay, guys, I've ranted enough about what we do on Twitch and stuff, but that's Print All the Things episode 2. Hope you all are enjoying this show. We're going to be talking about printing every week, what I'm printing, what's on the printer, what filaments I use, and what models I did. And hopefully you all enjoyed the show. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can either do it on, right now I'm on Anchor. That may change. I'm on anchor.fm/Bwana, or you can come over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bwana. I have a Tech Talks with Bwana playlist that you can subscribe to, where Print All the Things is part of that show as well. So you can come subscribe there. Okay. I want to send thanks to all my Patreons. I'm going to start doing this and be better. We've got a great group of guys and gals that are supporting me over at patreon.com/Bwana. This is the best way to support me. These guys help me stay full-time content creation, whether I'm streaming on Twitch, whether I'm doing YouTube content, whether I'm doing TikTok, whether I'm doing Instagram, or whether I'm doing BwanaLabs.com. If you want to help my endeavors, patreon.com/Bwana is the best way to help me. And thank you so much for all the patrons out there who have been so giving and so helpful. And without you guys, I don't think I'd be where I'm at. So thank you so much for your support. And I'll see you all next time. Have a great week. And remember, I gotta get this right. Remember, print all the things.